Bam bam, how's it going? It is I again, your boy TJ, and today we are going to be talking about whether to invest in real estate in the residential space or in the commercial space. There are many asset classes of investing in property. However, I get this question a lot, and a lot of people ask me the question, TJ, should I invest in residential or should I invest in commercial? Maybe let's jump in to define these two asset classes so that it can make sense to all of us, right? Because for some of us, we have only been involved in property investing and we are only seeing residential, and that's the only thing that we know. But there are so many ways of investing, or should I say many asset classes of investing in real estate. Yeah, my name is TJ and it's great hanging out with you. And if this is your first time coming through on here, welcome aboard. And if you've been here before but you haven't subscribed, hey, you have come back for the second time. Today is the day where you need to subscribe. Yep. Now, let's go on to talk about it. What is real estate investing? That is point number one. Real estate investing is all about buying properties, particularly for rental purposes. So you can buy them and then you rent it out. So which basically means that someone else is going to be able to look after your bond repayment and you don't have to. If you do it correctly, you can make a little bit of money out of that. Make sense? Yes, that is point number one. Point number one of that is, remember, we are trying to define the between the two here, which is real estate for rentals for residential or for commercial. So let's define those two. What is residential? Well, at one point or the other, you are staying somewhere. And because you are staying somewhere, that is residential. So if you are to rent out, you are renting to people that are going to stay in your property for the purposes of finding a home. Now, these people could be maybe on a short term, maybe on a long term. What do I mean by that? Short term might be, on Airbnb. This is a vacation now. That's still residential, by the way. Or on a long term, this is a family that's staying in your house for a long time or in your property for a long time. And that is all residential. Or maybe you can do a little bit of student accommodation, which is something that we do. Is it still residential? Yes, it's a residential with a flip of students. So what's better to do? Already we have started seeing that only in residential, there is different niches that you can jump into. I've already given you 3 of them. Within those 3, then the question is, what are you happy with to do? I don't know you, so I won't be able to tell you because all of these 3 have different pros and cons to them. Like, for instance, on the short-term rentals, maybe you're one of those people who do not want to be disturbed. You want to see all of your things in the same place as you found them 5 years ago. And if you have to bring in anyone new in your environment, you freak out. Then doing short-term rentals is not for you. Because short-term rentals, it's about bringing in people in your property frequently. It might be frequently on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, or who knows, it could be on an hourly basis. Yep. Now, obviously it's got pros and cons. The other one where you have a long-term where you're buying a property, maybe it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, and you forget that you have it because you've got a good tenant that's paying you on the 20th of each month and you worry for nothing, right? It's got its pros and cons. And the other one could be student accommodation where you have 20 of these kids staying on your property and they're throwing parties every weekend and you worry about that. Again, there is pros and cons to it. And I've just covered a whole lot around residential property. So when we're talking about residential, what is your mind frame in terms of residential? Because there's quite a lot in residential. I've just given you 3, but there could be lots. Let's go on into commercial. Commercial could mean a a wider array of things, right? In some cases, student accommodation could be defined as commercial because you're doing it for money purposes. But so is residential. You could be doing it for money purposes. But let's try to define it a little bit harder. Let me go on to say that let's assume you buy a big piece of land, and out of that land, you basically apply for a license or apply for a permit for you to have it turned into a cemetery. So it was agriculture and now you turn it into a cemetery. Is that commercial? Yes, it is. Now you turn you find a farm and then you commercialize that into a farming farm. So is that commercial? Yes. Or you find an industrial warehouse and you rent it out. Is that commercial? Yes, it's commercial. Or you find a strip mall, a small shopping center where there could be maybe about 5 to 10 shops. Is that commercial? Yes, that's commercial. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see there with the examples that I've given you, there is a wider array of commercial. So what ticks your fancy? So let's talk about it. You go and buy a farm and all of a sudden this farm is in your name. And with that, you're going to convert that into a cemetery. All of a sudden, you start getting gibbles jabbles. Yep, you know the gibbles jabbles? You're not comfortable, you can't sleep at night and all of those things because you're worried. But you're putting people in a grave on your land so they might come for you. It's a business. You don't need to worry. Okay? But some of us may not be comfortable with that, and that's pros and cons. But I've known people that have made good money with that over the years. Let's talk about it. An industrial warehouse where you bring in maybe Take a Lot. Yes, the company Take a Lot. They come through to your property and they say to you, yay, this is 1,000 square of a warehouse and we are going to take all of it. You don't have to pay for rates and taxes. You don't have to pay for water, for electricity, and give us the shell as it is. And we will just pay your rent. And you're like, woo, yes. But it's got its own pros and cons. Because maybe Take a Lot will come in with their own terms and conditions. Hey, they might even say to you, they'll pay you for 1 year's rent up front. It's a pro, isn't it? Who doesn't want that? There is many ways of doing this. The other one that we spoke about is that maybe you're turning it into a farm. Now, all of a sudden, you've got plenty of employees that you now need to worry about and pay every Friday, fortnight, whatever the case is. Now, what is your appetite? I've given you 3 on the residential. I've given you 4 on the commercial. And the question that we need to be asking ourselves is, when we are jumping into property investments, is who am I? Number 1, if you understand yourself in terms of what you can do and what you are happy to do as pros and cons, then you can answer the question to say, what's good for me? Is it residential or is it commercial? Then you can also jump on to have another criteria and say, how much money do I have? Because starting off in residential could be cheaper because you can start at the back room than going to buy a warehouse. But maybe you are hedging your money, you have a business where you're doing other things, and now you've got this millions, you don't know what to do it, so maybe just buying a warehouse just makes sense. Because you can speak to some of your buddies in the businesses who are looking for warehouses, or you can partition it into smaller warehouses for something else that you already know that's in the niche that's needing that. It's a pro and a con. Now, for some of us, we just asking these questions because we are just asking. Or we are asking because we are unsure. And here is the video to showcase to you the wider array of things that you can do. This is just scratching the surface. There is plenty of things that you can do in real estate. There's plenty of rentals that you can do. So it's about finding your comfort space. That's what I said. Understand who you are, understand your financial limitations, how much money capital you have. Work within these two. When you work within these two, at least you'll be able to understand the latter, which is number 3. What are you comfortable with? And what returns are you comfortable with? Because all of that also has an impact, because some properties give a low return, but with no effort of work. Some properties require you a high return, but with a high effort. So what are you looking for? I hope I've been able to answer you. If I haven't been able to answer you, in the comments, hit me up again with some more questions so that I can be able to answer you. And hopefully I can give you an indication of where to start or how to grow your business in the rental space. It is I, TJ. We will talk to you on the next video.